Hello and greetings. Welcome to the first Fireside Chat, GatherVerse Africa Tech for Humanity Summit. Well, today I'm very excited because we have a diplomat today, and we're going to be talking about business outsourcing challenges, opportunities between Africa and Europe. My name is Ling Gitao, communications for GatherVerse, and it's all my honor and my pleasure to welcome you, Sir Alexander. Please tell us who you are.
Yeah, good evening to all, to the audience in Africa. Good morning to the audience in the US. It's a great pleasure to be here today. My name is Alexander Fierley. I'm currently the deputy head of the German embassy in Nairobi, Kenya. We are also in charge of Somalia from our embassy here and in charge of the Seychelles. I have also the responsibility of our economic department at the embassy, and this is where business process outsourcing is coming in.
Wow, we're very happy to have you here. Thank you for dedicating your precious time to be with us today. You know, I'm staring at my screen and I'm seeing some statistics here, and let me just highlight them. Africa by 2050 is said to be the largest workforce, making up to 25%. That is with 1 billion people. And looking to the other side, I'm looking at EU Commission that estimates that EU will need an additional 1 million skilled workers in the next 5 years to sustain its economic growth. You have been in the lines of growing these ties between Africa and Europe. And for me, when I see these statistics, I think this is a perfect marriage. But it's easier said than done. So I just want to find out, in what ways is IT outsourcing influencing the economic ties between Africa and Europe? And I really want to boil down to the IT sector, but you can also zoom into other sectors. But for now, it's zooming into IT.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. We have in Germany an average age of our population of 44 years. In Nairobi, for instance, it's 19 years. So there you can see how different our societies are and what challenges comes with it. In Kenya, about 1 million young people enter the labor market every year. Out of those, 200,000 find a formal job and 800,000 end up in the informality. In Germany, we have a lack of skilled labor force that is increasing every year. So the German government has decided already a few years ago to lower the bars for foreigners to come to Germany and to work there. So this is one strategy. At the same time, we are looking, especially in the IT sector, how we can actually cooperate with countries that have the potential for business process outsourcing, for IT outsourcing, and other forms of digital services. I give you an example. German hospitals have an increasing problem of actually invoicing for their patients. So you need administrative staff, which is very expensive in Germany. It's difficult to find them. So why not looking for other countries where the invoicing can be done for German hospitals? And some businessmen have already found this opportunity and went to other countries to do that. Now, unfortunately, currently, other continents and other countries are in the main focus of German business because they have maybe started earlier. They have set up a brand in business process outsourcing digital services. It's mainly India, but it's also Vietnam. It's the Philippines, and on the African continent, I think Morocco. And also Eastern Europe is still strong in that. So there's a lot to do for Africa to actually enter this market with power
Yeah.
and brand itself as the more well, it's actually an IT hub that is closer to us, that has the same time zone, and that can actually perform at least on the same level than those countries I've just mentioned.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm just dragging a thread from one of the conversations from the roundtable we had previously. And, you know, you've mentioned you're trying to capture the African market, or you're already doing that. But I'm just curious, what are the challenges, especially when it comes to bringing that bridge between Africa and Europe? And what are the opportunities as well?
First of all, if you have, if you're a European businessman and you are looking for business opportunities in Africa, you first go to your peer group, so other investors who are already in the country and who can tell you the true story of what will expect you and what are the challenges and what are the opportunities. So very important is that you treat the investors that you have in the country very
Mm,
well, because they will tell the story that is relevant for new investors. So what are the opportunities? I think the opportunities is I can speak more about Kenya than about Africa, but in Kenya we have a really well-educated young generation. The World Bank has rated Kenya as the country that has the best education for its people in Africa.
wow.
Kenya, and I think also many other African countries, have a very good English language skills. That is also an advantage if we look at Asia, where the language skills might not be as good as here in Africa. And when I talk to German businessmen, whether it's business outsourcing, whether it's the industrial sphere, they all say Kenyan workers and African workers in general are very loyal. They are very motivated because they see that there's a big chance in working for an international company and actually develop the own career. So I think the as technical spoken, the human capital is the big asset of Africa. But then you have the general business conditions. Well, we diplomats usually tend to say good governance is a
Mm,
challenge, but you could also say corruption, to
yes.
be more frank. We have the problem that there is a lot of bureaucracy. In some countries, not so much in Kenya, but in other countries, I think it's a more of a problem. You need to have a robust internet connection or digital infrastructure. That's
Yeah.
very important. It has to be easy to import all the equipment that you need. I've heard of some concerns in that regard, also
Mhm.
of business people here in Kenya.
Yeah.
And I think Africa and the individual countries, they have to develop a brand. They have to go to Europe,
Mm,
to the US. They have to go to fairs and just promote
mm,
the country as a outsourcing hub. Currently, if a German businessman thinks about outsourcing, he would first think about Asia,
oh,
and you need to have someone who would actually direct you to Africa. If you don't have connections to Africa, then this would not be the first choice, because you would just not know of the opportunities
yes.
that exist here.
Yes, I'm also curious to follow up on what you just said. You said on the issues of governance, corruption. This is something that has been raised, and it's open. Do you think the international world or the other parts of the world have a contribution? Can they influence this kind of governance? Is there a way that these two parts of the world can come together and say your corruption is affecting our business, and for that sake, we need to do something on that. Can that happen as your role as a diplomat?
Mm.
Mm.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do that. We talk a lot. We are in conversations as German embassy, German government, as EU, but also as the international community.
Mm.
But I think our contribution can only be a small one. Most of the, let's say, of the impulse has to come from the own society, from the own system. It's we The only thing we can do is give advice, support in having the good legislation. That's what we do. Germany has a program on good governance with Kenya, so we support in that area. But at the
Mm.
end, it's all up to the decision of the leaders in the country and of yeah improving the system from within. I think that's the main thing. We can support from outside, but we are not the driving force in that.
Yes, definitely. That is true. We are the driving force ourselves. I want to shift gears, and you mentioned strategies, and I want to go deeper into strategies. What strategies do you see are the most effective when it comes to aligning Africa tech skills and European IT outsourcing demands?
I think one important issue which I hear from German businesses is the transfer of data and the question to which extent can I legally transfer data between Africa and Europe? And take the example of Kenya. Kenya has a very advanced protection legislation that has actually led to a process that is now going on in the European Union. That will lead, hopefully, in the data protection adequacy decision. That means if everything goes well, German businesses will be able to transfer data from the European Union to Kenya the same way
Mhm.
they transfer data from, let's say, Germany to Italy or Germany to France. So that would be a big asset because Kenya would be the first country in Africa and one of the first in the world where this would be possible. And this is because the Kenyan government has worked very early on data protection issues, has aligned with Europe in that regard, and that will actually bring the country forward. I'm quite sure about that. Um, of course, as I said already, the branding of the country is very important.
Mhm.
Bringing the message to the customers in Europe about the advantages of Kenya.
Yeah.
And then you have to find, and I think that is the most difficult thing. You have to, of course, at the end, the businesses will make a calculation. Will it
Mhm.
cost me more or less investing in Kenya compared to, let's say, India or Bangladesh?
Mhm. Mhm.
So you have to be very cost effective. But on the other side, what we don't want and what we don't want to promote is very vulnerable jobs here in Kenya. So to find a good balance between still being cost effective
Mhm.
and at the same time protect the workers here in the country from vulnerable working relations. I think that is a big challenge for the country, and
Yes.
we try to support. And maybe it's more important to bring the cost effectiveness through other issues like
Mhm.
cheap energy, tax holidays,
Mhm.
improving bureaucracy, bringing
Mhm.
bureaucracy down, because these are all costs at the end
Yeah.
that a business in Europe has to factor in when they go to Africa.
Wow. That is very, very insightful. And I want to highlight something that you have mentioned, branding, branding, branding. And I want you to expound on that. You mentioned about branding when it comes to Africa. There's minimal effort we're seeing from Africa when it comes to branding. So how should Africa brand themselves? What is their pathway? Give us some highlights on how to do it better.
Yeah, I don't know if I know it better
Yeah.
than many of the experts in the
Yeah.
country, but I can give you my perspective.
Please do.
And there are big advantages here in the country. As I said, is the human capital, if you want to say so, or you can just say the people, the talents that are there. That is definitely one thing that should be centered in a campaign in Europe. Second, the time zone that you have, because much is about customer services, being reachable for European businesses, and if you are in the same time zone, that helps already a lot. The good English knowledge that is there, and also the talent to learn other languages. In particular in Kenya, but I think in most of the other African countries, people speak three languages. There's
Yes.
their local language, then there is a national African language, and then sorry for that, and then there is English or French or Portuguese that most of the people in Africa speak. So for them, usually it's very easy to learn another language. So if you need a customer service in German or Italian or French, you usually find people here who can do this and who are eager. So all these incentives, I think, should be in the center of a campaign to actually bring Africa to the mind of German or European businesses.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning about language, but I just want to boil down to it because I love the issue of language. I have seen a lot of young people who have said or have expressed, I don't know German, I don't know Italian, I don't know Spanish. Yes, we are very dynamic when it comes to language, but what are the best places to go to when it comes to learning a new language, especially when you're an adult? It's very hard to go to a foreign country and learn a new language. How do you encourage more skilled workers, maybe who are coming to Germany, to start learning Germany, and how can they start when they're still on ground in Kenya?
Oh, just from the experience that we have here in Kenya,
Yeah.
you don't have to encourage them.
Yeah.
Since we have the mobility agreement between Kenya and Germany that was signed last year,
Mhm.
we have such a big run on our language classes, be it from Goethe Institute, which is the German Cultural Institute, or private institutions. We just can't deal with all the demands for language classes that is there. We have Kenyan Tibet schools that ask us for language teachers. We have universities that want to cooperate with us on language teaching. So the country, I think, is really eager in and the people are really eager in providing themselves with the skills they need to actually fulfill the demands of foreign investors in the country or for going abroad and working abroad. It's I think this is a big asset because if you grow up in a society where 80% really have to
Mhm.
struggle in an informal sector,
Yes.
people are really motivated to shape their career and to be successful, and that is a big asset, not only of Kenya but of the whole of Africa, I think.
Yes, I totally relate to that as a young person. I relate to that 100%. I just want to shift gears to something. What emerging technologies fields holds the most promise for Africa between Africa and Europe partnership? What technologies are you looking for?
I wouldn't actually start with latest technology and with, I don't know, AI, etc.
Yeah.
There are there are experts in this country which really have world-class level in Kenya, but I think also in other countries. We've just heard in the panel discussion before that Kenya is, especially on fintech, but also on insurtech, really really spearheading developments not only in Africa but globally. But if you really look at a larger scale and you want to increase the number of jobs significantly, then I think you should look at the low-hanging fruits first. And experts tell me that is also how in other countries the BPO sector has developed. So you start with customer service, content management, so things where you need people in scale, and at the same time the requirements, the qualification requirements are, let's say, comparatively low, and from there you will also need people who then also have jobs where you need higher qualification, and then you can develop actually other sectors like cybersecurity is something that is very important now in Europe, getting more and more important, where companies are looking for specialists outside of Europe. Of course, artificial intelligence, coding, software development. So you name it, we have a shortage in all these areas, and German companies are very eager. But you don't have thousands of those experts here in Kenya, like in Europe, like in the US. This is an elite actually that also, let's say, from a cost effectiveness point of view, are not really cheap. Because there's a shortage here as well. But if you look at the lower level jobs, then I think you can really scale up the number of jobs in the country a lot.
Wow, that is very, very informative. I'm listening to you, and I feel like I'm taking so many notes that I'm going to share with so many young people who are looking at us and looking at what you're saying. In the life of a diplomat, take us in. What is the life of a diplomat? For someone who's looking at you and is saying, I want to be a diplomat, I want to bridge relationships between continents, you're the best person to advise them at the moment. Please tell them something.
I think the first thing is to be humble, and it takes you a year or two actually until you understand, or you think you understand the society, a culture, the people that are around you. But probably after 4 years, that's usually the time that you are in a country, you still don't have the insight in the country. So being humble, listening to others, trying to understand that things work differently as they do in Europe or Germany, but not necessarily better or worse, but just differently. I think, and to accept that, that is very important. We are not here in Africa or anywhere else in the world to change the world, to export our attitude. We are there to see where we have similar interests, where we can work together, what we can do to prevail peace, to work on climate issues and things like that are very important for our countries, but also for countries in Africa or Asia or Latin America or elsewhere. So that is our task, and doing that in a humble way, doing that in a respectful way, I think that is what makes the life of a diplomat.
Amazing, amazing. I want to be a diplomat too. That is my ambition. And just to conclude on this, things to do with business outsourcing challenges Africa between Africa and Europe. What is your key takeaway? What is the experience so far when it comes to Europe and Africa? What do you see the future as well? What is your future? How do you see the future evolving when it comes to these two?
Africa is our neighbor. If you stand in southern Spain, you can see the African continent. It's just, I think it's 13 kilometers between Spain and Morocco, and so this is our neighbor. This is the fastest growing continent population-wise, but also economic-wise. We have growth rates in Africa that we don't see in Europe anymore. So there are many opportunities and chances, and we should see Africa as a continent of chances and not as a continent of troubles. I think that would already change a lot. This has much to do with media. Usually Africa comes into European media when it's about civil war, I don't know, protests, unrests, etc. But telling the good stories, I think that is our task, also as diplomats and those actually who are building bridges between the two continents. We have to tell positive stories, and we have to take this continent as an opportunity also for Europe. And I can see a mind shift in Europe. Also, when politicians come to Kenya or to Africa as a whole, they don't want to, in former times they went to informal settlements and saw projects that we are doing to help the people, etc. So that's the old picture. Nowadays, if a German or European politician comes to Kenya, he wants to see the tech community, he wants to see the startup community, he wants to see the possibilities in infrastructure projects. So we have a mind shift, but it takes its time, and I think it's a good development.
Mind shift. I stuck with that, to be honest. And Alexander, we could go on and on. I don't know how busy your schedule is. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for the insights. And we welcome you back as well, right? And this was a gather, and we enjoyed our time with you. Thank you so much. Over to you, GatherVerse team. And it's a bye for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.